So that's right, family. God explains why it's so hard to get a job in the market. It's crazy right now that people are talking about these specific situations. It used to be where you could fill out an application, walk into a business, restaurants, or in general, and you can just turn that application in to somebody of a management position, and they would be able to get back to you. They will let you know whether they were hiring, whether they were not hiring, right? It used to be as simple as that. Now we are at the time and place where everything is done on an automated system, right? You input everything online, everything's online, right? From the call back from an AI operator all the way up to, you know, when and where you're gonna be able to start without even having to have met anybody in the upper management. That's exactly where we are with it. So it's very tough for people to be able to get these positions because they're just so far disconnected from the actual company and from the actual management itself, right? So even at times, the management doesn't even know you, right? They may have grabbed your resume or application, but that's all they did. They just grabbed it, it pulled it up, they read your name, and they're just gonna give you a call. You know, they don't really go through anything and find out, you know, too much about you. You know what I'm saying? It's like you got to go through all of these hoops and loops and stuff like that, and people are really tired of it. You know, they're not getting the callbacks. They're putting in hundreds of applications, and it's getting really, really tedious, man. It's breaking people down, right? It should not be that complex for someone to be able to get an occupation of a job of sort, because at the end of the day, people need to be able to make money. They're either going to make money doing it the American way, which is getting a job and working 8 hours a day, or they're going to do it the way that's going to get their freedom taken away. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, man, people are trying to do the thing that they're supposed to do, but they just can't seem to get, past that barrier. And like I said, with AI starting to come about, it's making it much more complex than it has ever been. And you got to think about for the people that are older in age, right? The people that are beyond the millennials. Because remember, they didn't really come into all of this technology shit. You know what I'm saying? They were, pencil and paper application, pencil and pen to the application. You know what I'm saying? But now it's completely different. So you can only imagine how much tougher it is for them. So with that being said, man, everybody's gonna, have their own opinion, but there's always gonna be, other people that's gonna share theirs. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, take a listen to this video.
I always find it interesting to think about how the job market and the application process only continues to be difficult because real people like you and me that have fallen into the roles of recruiters and hiring managers have been conditioned to believe that it should be. Because the only barrier between a qualified candidate and an actual job that's available is the hiring committee in between, who's been brainwashed to think that the interviewee has to have an absolute life devotion to the role and the company in which they're applying for. Why do you want this job? Why do you want to work for this company? Those questions don't need to exist because on a very basic level of human understanding, we should all know that the only reason that anybody is working a job at the end of the day is because that is the system in which society has been set up for us to be able to provide for ourselves. So we know that there's jobs available and we know that there's qualified people, but there's all of this bullshit in the middle because everybody is conditioned to believe that everybody who works for any company and applies for any job needs to make it their life goal to want to do that task. And just because I don't have an absolute devotion to work for your company I've never heard of doing mediocre tasks doesn't mean that I wouldn't be good at them. But this ridicule ritual of why do you want to work here and why have you always dreamed of doing these mind-numbing tasks for a living just doesn't make sense to anyone, the interviewee or the interviewer. We're all people. Why can't we just understand that this is the game that we've unfortunately all been introduced into, and we're all just trying to survive? If we stopped being compliant with, well, this is the way that an interview should be, and this is how people need to interview, and it's all a game, and they're playing a game, and you need to play a game back. If we just cut all of that out and said, I'm going to hire somebody because they want to work for me, we'd probably solve this problem. Oh, the job market's at an all-time low. Why? Why is the job market at an all-time low? Everybody's understaffed. Oh, the position's been open for a year and we can't find the right people. Why? Because they didn't interview right? Because they couldn't answer your question as to why they've always dreamed of being an administrative assistant? Come on, people, let's be so fucking for real.